Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my report on the Capricorn New Moon on the days around December 30th or 31st, 2024. Black Moon rising, a new game begins. This new moon is the second new moon in the calendar month of December, making it a black moon. And there's all kinds of mysticism and lore around black moons, but it's not just for the ethereal realm that this is notable. It also has to do with gravitational tides. I think we commonly know that when the full moon is out, it affects us being water. It affects, the tides. There are more missions to hospitals, and pretty well known about the energy of a full moon. But I think what's less well known is that we can actually have just as powerful a response gravitationally from a new moon. During a new moon, the moon and the sun are aligned on the same side of the earth. They come together in what's called a conjunction, where they are at the exact same degree. So when the moon and the sun combine and they're on the same side of the earth, they combine their gravitational forces. And this alignment can cause spring tides, which are higher than average high tides or lower than average low tides. So just the same as a full moon can do. So, this is something to be aware of, since the effects on us tend to be just as intense as what we see in those tidal responses. New moons can trigger births the same way that full moons can. And when you have a black moon, sometimes those forces, energetically can bring even more pronounced effects. Now, during some black moons, the moon actually becomes invisible to the naked eye. Now, this is an astrological new moon. It's not an astronomical new moon. There are different definitions of what makes a new moon from the astronomical perspective and the astrological perspective. So you'll probably be able to see this one. But for the astronomical new moons, it disappears, which is kind of a cool phenomenon. Also, starting around this time, there's going to be a meteor shower. So the darkness of the night may help for that meteor shower to be seen. So I want to talk about the timing of the effects of this moon. And there's something kind of interesting here to talk about, a little different than what we usually talk about. So I'll give you the usual info about the timelines of manifestation for this new black moon in Capricorn. And then I'm going to connect it in to the eclipse cycle and talk about how this is actually a chapter in the eclipse cycle, and I'll explain why. And then I'll get into explaining what these alluring Italian carnevale masks are all about, and why I chose those as the thumbnail here. Okay, so we usually feel a new moon or a full moon strongest a few days before and a few days after. So some time zones are going to have this happen on December 30th. Some of you are going to have this happen on December 31st. The several days before, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. And then the few days after, 31st, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd. That's the strongest time that you may really notice this energy. But sometimes the energy is working so subconsciously that you're not noticing it, but it's happening. And so this happens, every 2 weeks. So there's a 2-week cycle connected to the waxing and waning of a new moon. There's, of course, a 28, 29 day cycle at play of manifestation, of, information, of effects coming from this moon. There's a 13-month moon cycle, or a 13 moon timeline for manifestation for things that are done at this new moon, or things that happen at this new moon, because certain things will just happen and will be brought by this energy. And then, of course, you can use this consciously. I'm going to talk about that, what you can consciously use this moon for, and use the power of it to magnify out, for your manifesting, for your creation. So there is another timeline that I want to talk about, and this has to do with the eclipses. Okay, so here we are at the end of December. The eclipses are going to be March 13th or 14th, depending on your time zone, and March 29th. The one that I'm going to talk about here for this new moon is the eclipse that we have on March 29th. It's a solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. Now, for my astrology student friends, if any of you are learning astrology with me, or just in general, and you're new to my channel, I'm going to give you just a second to see why. What is interesting about 9 degrees of Aries relating to the moon? Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Notice that this new moon is at 9 degrees. Okay, so it's at 9 degrees of Capricorn, which means that this moon is going to be squaring the point at which this eclipse is going to happen. And so there are these ethereal lines that, we can't see. They're connectors. They're connectors in storylines. So something may happen at this new moon. You may make a decision, you may make a realization, you may set an intention, or something else may come to you that's going to wind up echoing out and having relevance in the spring or the fall for you, you all down under. So, there's something significant here 3 months out, and it could be manifesting any time in this 3 months. But the closer we get to the hot spot of that eclipse, you may see some continuation of a storyline. Now, since this eclipse has been the Aries Libra eclipse cycle, this is actually the final eclipse in this cycle. I'm not going to go a ton into the eclipses. I have lots of other resources on that. But for our discussion here, it's important to bring up some of this information. So from early 2023 to now, we've been in an Aries Libra eclipse cycle, and Aries and Libra have to do with me versus we. So we've been in a new set of storylines with establishing our autonomy and joining deeper in relationships and really understanding our relationship to ourselves and to other people. And this is kind of now leading into my story of the masks. Okay, so I don't know if you know about the Carnevale that's in Venezia in Italy, but this is a time when people can be someone else. It's a time when people can lose their inhibitions, or they can crack out of something that they had been kept in, trapped in. They can try something on. It's a new way of being, and energetically, it relates to a mask, taking one off, putting a new one on. So I really see very strong energy around this Capricorn new moon about a new game beginning, a new game, a new level, a new story, a new mask, a new persona, a new way of people seeing you. And this is because Capricorn is what we show the world. Basically, Aries is the rising sign energy, and that is very much related to the mask that we wear and what we show the world. Okay, so it's like what people are greeted with when they first meet us, our mask that we put on for the day, And what's interesting about that is that Capricorn relates to our place out in the world. Okay, so Aries is our identity, Capricorn is our place out in the world. So having this relationship between 9 degrees, everything in life is mathematical. The more we go into math, the more we see that everything is math. And astrology is the same. So when there's a connection like this between these events, we can see that something is getting cracked open, and this is a square, and a square is a cracker opener. All right, so this is renegotiating this final story of this 2-year cycle, of the masks that you wear, of the persona that you have put on, of the ways that you were given a mask that wasn't even yours. Maybe it was your parents or society's or whatever it was. And now it's time for a new mask. Okay, now it's time to try a new mask on. It's time to embrace something that you knew, was a true level for you. And it may be time for you to remove a mask and be seen more as well. The new moon is all about setting intentions. You can make new moon wishes. And the more you align with Capricorn things, so work, your place out in the world, if you're not working, if it could just be how people know you in the clubs that you're a part of, it's your place out in the world, whether you get paid for the place that you're taking there or not. It's your reputation. It is employment. It can be you as an authority figure, you and your work, you and, the direction of what you do, your your purpose-driven projects, your passion projects, your planning, your strategy, all of that has to do with Capricorn. Parental figures are also there. Historically, this is father figure energy, but this can be, filled in by anybody, really, someone who basically holds the skeleton of your life together. And that could be anybody. That could be someone younger than you. That could be someone older than you. It's a Saturnian role. Saturn rules Capricorn. So there's something new about the skeleton that's holding you together. And it's this beginning of this new game. Now, feeding into this story, we have a lot more layers that I want to talk about here. Okay, so we know that something's activating with the final conclusion of the MeWe storyline. We know that new persona energy is happening. We know that you're cracking out of an old mask, trying on a new one. And I say trying on because we are still in Mars retrograde. So there is some kind of impermanence to what's happening now. And the eclipse energy might start to make whatever is going to stay permanent. Okay. So you're trying something on, you're going back to something, and then over the next few months, you'll start to see what is going to be, staying. So at the same time, we have Pluto and Mars in the second clash of a 3 clash storyline. Okay, the first one happened at the beginning of November. This is the second one here at the end of December into the beginning of January. And then we have it happen again at the end of April. So there's some kind of storyline where clashing with authority figures, Mars, the god of war, Pluto, the leader of the underworld, the ruler of the underworld, clashing with these unconscious forces of aggression and assertion and, just in conflict and inner conflict and dis-ease. And this is, again, cracking open. So this is an opposition, and that is a challenge aspect. And this square between where the eclipse is going to hit and this new moon is also a challenged aspect. But that's not all that's going on here. We do actually have a really beautiful aspect that can lead to massive amounts of healing from whatever gets cracked open. But it is a cracking open. It's a cracking of a mask. It's a dropping of a mask. It's the putting on of a new one. And it very much embodies that type of energy. So at this time, in the days, the same days as the new moon, Mercury is going to make a beautiful trine with Chiron. And really, it's also making a trine with Hygeia and Eris. Okay, because they're close enough together. All of this is echoing, and then as Mercury continues to go forward, it's going to go into the trine formation there. So it's setting off a sequence of 3 trines, which are the most favorable in all of astrology. This is sacred geometry at its best, magical triangle, helping you to transcend above the polarized states. So we talked about how Mars and Pluto are in this polarized state. They're pushing and pulling. We talked about the Aries Libra eclipse cycle of me versus we. It's pushing and pulling. We talked about the square formation of things getting cracked open. And now we're looking at the beautiful, glorious transcendence that can come from all of this, involving Chiron, which is the wounded healer. Chiron is an asteroid, and I don't know how much people are talking about this. Honestly, I really stay in my own lane, and I don't really listen to other astrologers. I just listen to spirit, I follow astrology, and I tell you what I see. So I don't really know the extent to which you've heard about Chiron. Chiron is an asteroid. It has around a 50-year orbit, and it's the wounded healer. It's actually the ruler of what some people call the 13th sign, Ophiuchus. Now, we're not going to get into all of that. I do have a separate video on Ophiuchus, but Chiron is here and is this wise healer, and he's a wounded healer. So the story about Chiron, he was accidentally to better understand the potentials here with this beautiful trine, we have to understand Chiron a little better. So Chiron was basically a renowned healer. He was skilled in medicine, also music and hunting and prophecy. And one of the things he was best known for was that he was a trainer of heroes. Okay, and Asclepius, the god of medicine, Achilles, the great warrior of the Trojan War, Heracles, also known as Hercules, was a demigod hero. Most people have heard of him. Jason, the leader of the Argonauts, Yeah, so he trained these heroes, and he was deeply skilled in the healing arts, herbal medicine, and holistic practices. And he still to this day represents a holistic viewpoint of healing, and also represents where we are wounded and that place that we are vulnerable, like where the Achilles heel was. So basically, Achilles was dunked into the waters of immortality, and he was held by his heel being dunked in. So his heel was the only thing that was vulnerable, and that's how he died, right? So this energy kind of relates into the chironic journey of accidental injury. So basically, Chiron was immortal, but his life changed dramatically when he was accidentally wounded by a poison arrow. And the arrow was shot by Heracles or Hercules, and it was coated with the blood of the Hydra, which is this terrible substance that caused excruciating and incurable pain. So, despite being this great healer and being immortal, Chiron couldn't heal his own wound, symbolizing this paradox of the wounded healer. Many people who do healing work, they have a lot of healing help that they need. And Chiron represents this person, this journey, this chironic journey of people who gain wisdom and empathy through their own suffering. So basically, he grew weary of his immortality because of the endless pain. So he ultimately chose to sacrifice his immortality and end his suffering. So he combined this with an act of compassion. So he basically traded his immortality with Prometheus, who was being punished for stealing fire for humanity. And so, in recognition of the wisdom and the selflessness that Chiron showed, Zeus placed him in the sky as the constellation Centaurus. And many myths also associate him to the constellation of Sagittarius. Now, if you were to see this, I'm not going to go into this now, but maybe a report for another time. The Ophiuchus sign, or the Centaurus zodiac constellation, is basically right between Scorpio and Sagittarius, and kind of rolls over like the end of Scorpio energy into like the first part of Sagittarius energy. And so really for a 12 sign astrology, like we use, like I am using, Chiron actually works in to be a part ruler of Sagittarius, which, is a very little known fact, because we know that Jupiter rules Sagittarius, right? Well, if we're not looking at a 13th sign, which I am not, I'm incorporating this energy into Sagittarius. So, this energy is what we have opportunities for right now. Okay. So now that you understand the energy, the story of Chiron, you can see when Mercury, the god of communication and mobility, comes in and makes a beautiful aspect to this whole story, you can have profound healing in a short amount of time. You can have a new shiny mask that feels good, that feels safe, that feels fun, that feels interesting to you, that feels like a new era for you. And all of this can be precipitated not only by this sweet energy of this trine and this series of trines, but also by the difficult aspects that are cracking something open. You can look at this time for the possibility of your deepest wound becoming your source of strength and profound healing and profound, awesome gifts that can come to you. Maybe even ending some suffering, like the resolution of some pain, physically or mentally or emotionally, that you can find something that really heals you, where you can step into your new experience and not have your mask of pain on anymore. Overall, a new moon, a black moon, is really a chance for deep renewal and deep introspection. It's an amplified new moon that offers this deeper connection to the subconscious and shadow work, and also a really fantastic time to plant seeds. Seed planting at the new moon is one of the most powerful ways we can use this energy. So the more you foster a seed, the more it can grow into a strong plant. This is true of humans. This is true of projects. Any seed that we really, really can foster and protect and tend to can grow to be the most magnificent creations and blooms ever. And the intentions that you set at this time have the potential to evolve into some very profoundly vital, strong, lush experiences. It's a time for you to dismantle outdated systems to get your new mask. It's a time of ambition. Even here in the midst of Mars retrograde, you may find something that you're excited about that you can set intentions for. You may set new structures in place. This can lead to your highest expression in this lifetime because this Mars placement is actually making a trine to the transiting North Node, which has a lot to do with karma, which is directly connected into the eclipses and shows us our highest expression in this lifetime. All right, so you're going back over things, back over using your energy, seeing how you're using your energy, back over maybe conflicts with authority figures, back over unresolved things from your past, back over, your greatest wound, and then emerging from all of this triumphant and successful. So a new game is beginning. If you want to know even more about what's going on this month, definitely check out my monthly horoscopes. I am tending to post kind of weekly these days, and unfortunately YouTube does not notify you consistently if you're a subscriber, even if, you have a better chance of getting notified of my uploads on YouTube if you click like, subscribe, click the bell, and enable notifications. But for whatever reason, YouTube is not choosing to notify everybody who has done that. So really the best way for you to stay connected to all of my content and not miss anything is to go to anniehelpsyou.com, and you can sign up for my email newsletter. And I send out weekly report, or sometimes, if I have some new content, I'll shoot it out if it's not in that report. So you won't miss anything. So for YouTube friends, I'm going to put in the end screen my January report or my current astrology list of videos. If you're a podcast listening friend, just scroll back in time and you can find, on my, wherever you're listening to me, Spotify or wherever else, you can just scroll back to the January reports and you can get a fantastic idea about what is going on this month. I'm calling the theme of this month the planetary clash, bringing a mountain of cash. And I do actually have all of the zodiac horoscopes in one video for this month. So if you're looking for them as individual ones, you won't find them. You'll find it as one video. It's time-stamped, and you can check all that out there. Just to give you a sneak peek into what's coming, I have a surprise upload that I'm not going to tell you. And then I will have one for this brilliant full moon in Cancer, which I will give you a little hint. There is also a connection to an eclipse cycle for this one, and we'll go into the details of that then. When you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, you put your name and email address in and click receive. You'll get a welcome letter with an archive link. And you can click on the archive link and you can go back and put in January 2025 astrology into the search bar, and you can find my written write-up for the month of January, including my sweet and salty dates. And you, as a member of this VIP community, it's all free. You also get access to all of my content early. So earlier than it's published, and then you won't miss anything because I'll notify you when I put something up. I hope you have a wonderful month and make absolute magic with this new moon, this black moon. And I hope the beginning of your new game is exciting and fulfilling during this black moon rising. I'll see you soon.